Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fourth event of this training month, the last one, the one with the, let's say, most scary workflow to be in theme with the day. No, I'm joking. Let's wait for all the participants to log in. And then we can start. So as always, as before, today we'll be presenting this webinar explaining the last part of this application training month regarding Denture Workflow. With me, there is Sassan, our Dexis IO Scanning specialist. I'm Maurizio. I'm the Dexis IO Training and Development Manager for Europe. So let's wait a little bit more, 1 minute, to see if the number of participants stabilize, and then we can start. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think we can start. The session is recorded, so if you miss it, you can rewatch the registration. Okay, let's start. Welcome again. This is the last session, last webinar for this training month, and in this webinar we will explain the denture workflow. So the agenda for today is understanding the new denture workflow, scanning tips regarding the Edentulous patient in case the Edentulous archer, demonstration with some scan and some demo that we had, and Q&A. I start speaking about understanding the new denture workflow, and not with the scanning tips this time, because this denture workflow is something really new that we introduced with the latest update, the ScanFlow 109. And it's not actually something new if you are a user of ScanFlow since a few years. There was another denture workflow that was included in the ScanFlow software back, I think, with the 104 version. This version of the denture workflow is an improvement of that. So that scan had the same, let's say, outcome. But in this way, in the version that we improved in the 109 is actually easier and get the better result. Okay. So what is the denture workflow? So why we need a denture workflow? To scan a denture? No. To scan a Edentulous patient? No, because we can do the same without any workflow. So you can scan a Edentulous patient in the common scan. You can scan the full denture in the common scan. The goal of this denture triple scan or denture scan workflow is to help you to have a better information for your lab in case of new denture, in case of first denture, or in case you need to move from a movable denture on a prosthesis on implant, for example, like All-on-4, All-on-6, etc., etc. What the workflow do? So following the steps, the result that you have is the upper lower jaw edentulous or only the upper or only the lower jaw in the bite registration of your existing denture, or if you don't have existing denture, you can use an occlusal rim for the bite registration. So the goal of this flow is to give to the lab to who will design a new denture or the prosthesis for an implant, prosthesis on implant, let's say, all on four, a real bite position, a real bite registration, vertical position of the patient jaws. In that case, you will have less tryout. You don't need to have a test denture to try or redesign or re-correct and less appointment with your patient. How it works. So the workflow can be used for a first denture. You have two ways basically to use this workflow. Take the common scan. In the common scan, you take the bite information. Then you scan your Edentulous patient scan. And at the end, you take the denture scan or the reference scan. And at the end, you do a full match of all this information. But what happens if I don't have an existing denture? So if I don't have an existing denture, you can scan the Edentulous scan. This workflow specifically is the only workflow that allows you to start from the second tab, from the Edentulous scan. All the other workflow, you need a common scan. Otherwise, you cannot go on. With this workflow, you can open scan flow, add denture workflow, start to scan the Edentulous scan, upper, lower jaw, or just the upper and the just the upper jaw, if you just into the upper jaw. Then refine in the check stage, export, and send the Edentulous scan of the upper jaw to your lab. Then the lab provide you a occlusal rim that fit the patient mouth, okay, fit the Edentulous, match with the Edentulous scan, and match with the patient mouth. Then you take a scan of the occlusal rim or the external of the occlusal rim. First, you need to put the occlusal rim on the mouth of the patient and realign with impression material if it's necessary. Check the bite position, recheck the height of the occlusal rim to check the bite position, okay, the comfortable bite position of the lower jaw. And then once the occlusal rim is it's okay, you scan the occlusal rim from the outside with the bite of the patient, and then copying the occlusal rim from the common scan to the denture scan, you will scan the inside of the occlusal rim. And the final matching, it will match starting from the denture, the inside of the occlusal rim or the existing denture with the Edentulous scan, and the outside with the bite. We have a question. We will cover this later. In case you have an existing denture, the protocol is basically the same. So you start capturing the outside of your denture like it is the normal patient mouth, upper, lower jaw, bite information like a normal patient scan. So 4 position for the bite, 3, 4 position, etc., etc. Then you move to the Edentulous scan. You scan the Edentulous upper or lower jaw or both, and then you complete the scan inside of the denture. And at the end, you do a final alignment. The workflow works also for partial denture. So if you have a partial denture, the workflow is the same. You scan the upper, lower, bite with the denture on, with the partial denture on, the patient with the Edentulous area, and then you complete the partial denture to match at the end with the Edentulous jaw. Here you can see an example of the triple overlap of partial denture. The matching system is really similar to the triple implant matching. So it works the same. You can work with points, like you can see here, or automatic matching. Here an example of partial denture. You can see, you can also check if the matching is good. You can see a slicing of your model to see all the information. And this is a case of superimposition. So you can see the 3 scan overlapped: denture scan, edentulous scan, and common scan. Now, scanning tips. So Sasan will explain you how to scan your edentulous patient, and then we will see some scan and some actual demo to see better and understand better the flow.
All right. So some points that you want to keep in mind when you are scanning. We have one major difference comparison to any patient with actual teeth. So generally, we're keeping the scanner in contact with the tooth, always going smoothly from one tooth to another. But if you don't have any teeth at all, because the gingiva in general, the soft tissue is so sensitive to touch, it's basically our advice that you don't touch them. You have to kind of hover, keep a comfortable distance, just make sure that you're not actually touching any of the soft tissue whilst you're scanning. Everything should be as dry as possible. So just, yeah, use your universal unit for that. And what you want to do next is to have everything be one smooth motion and in one smooth flow. Try to avoid rescanning areas. It's even more important with the actual denture workflow compared to the other ones. And yeah, finally, what helps also with the referencing for later on is in terms of the upper, that you actually make a full scan of the palate, go as deep as you need to, go as wide as you need to. So do include any of the frenulums that you have in the front or in the buccal sections. And in terms of the motion, there is a guide. It's a tip that you can see in the window over there. We'll show you the actual process, but initially you'll start with an occlusal scan going from one arch side to the other arch side, followed by going from posteriorly to anteriorly on the one side, the other side, and then you have kind of this crisscross motion going in an S pattern sort of to actually capture the palate, as we can see here.
This is clearly a model scan, not a real patient, but it's meant to show how to move actually the scanner.
Okay, next. For the lower, it's kind of, as you can see here, that we start basically lingually, kind of move anteriorly and then go back towards the posterior. And you sort of repeat that motion, except that you start posteriorly on the one side, and on the other side, you can actually start from the anterior section, go back, and then you bring it back anteriorly towards the end, as you can see in step 2. What you can see also in the video is that the scanner is paying close attention to actually not overlap too much of the initial scan. And if you paid close attention, you also noticed that there was a slight mismatching at one point. Again, don't be concerned if you see that initially. The software will actually adjust it and have everything matched then, as you saw it just hop into place towards the end. It would be a thanks.
So to conclude this suggestion for the scanning tips for the dental scan, for the jaws, it's really important to don't overscan too much. As Sasan explained, try to do one pass. Try to scan as much as possible with one pass, and it's better actually to leave some voids of gaps then repass again too much time the same position. It's actually creating worse scan. It takes a little bit of a practice, experience, this type of scan. And clearly with the 3800 that has a bigger field of view, it's easier than a 36 or 3700. But officially this workflow, it's compatible with every scanner. So even with the 3600, you can actually achieve the same result. It's a little bit more tricky, the scanner, because of the smaller field of view, but you can actually achieve the same. Regarding the question, I don't know, Sasan, if you can see it. So there is a question, say, to have tips for capturing occlusal rims where there are mostly smooth wax. Should not be a problem. So the wax is actually easy to scan with Denture scanner. The only suggestion I can give on this is like the scanning of the soft tissue, try to not touch it. So stay in with a short distance to the wax to avoid to actually modify the reference on the wax unless it's dry and hard, and but it should not be the case.
One thing I might add, and Maurizio, tell me if you disagree, but sometimes from my clinical experience, some labs actually do polish the wax, so it's extremely shiny. Can we use the reflective surfaces in this section?
The anti-reflective mode, yes. If
yes,
there is any struggle,
I suggest including that.
If there is any shining surface, any struggling with the scanner, you can always activate the anti-reflective mode. That is actually not only for metal, but for anything shining.
Yeah.
There is another question. Let's follow the question because I can see that we can see the file in a second step. So do you switch off the AI when scanning the Edentulous? Actually, the software automatically deactivates the AI for the soft tissue during the Edentulous scan. There will be maybe some changes in the future if we improve the algorithm for the artificial intelligence for the soft tissue. But for now, the software is actually automatically deactivated. So if you have the soft tissue AI active, when you switch to the Edentulous scan, is automatically switched off. And if you go back to the normal scan, is switched on again. Okay, so let's move on some demonstration. So I have here a couple of scans. Let's start from the occlusal rim. So this is an example. These are models, not live patient. I'm sorry. There is also a live patient scan I will show at the end. But the purpose of this webinar is to show the workflow. So I'm happy to show with demo file. So as you can see here in the first scan, with or without the color, we have just the upper jaw. Okay, so we have in the common scan, we scan our occlusal rim and the bite pressure. And if we go to check the occlusion, we can see that the actual occlusal rim is fitting perfectly with the lower jaw. This is the Edentulous scan. In this case, there was also implant. And we have only the upper jaw because the lower jaw is not Edentulous, so it's normal tooth. At the end, at the last stage in the dental scan, when, as explained before, when you click the denture scan, the software will ask you to copy the data from the common scan, so you don't need to rescan everything. You just copy the common scan and then complete, without color is looking better, complete the inside of the scan. There are some tricks here. You need to start scanning from the buccal side, any buccal side, go up, and then turn inside. And once you connect this part, then you can scan the rest of the arch. The software is actually making some advice on video, like the Edentulous. I will show it later with a new scan. But yeah, so the thing is, when you scan this part, you actually don't have, you don't use the scanner in the mouth of the patient. So you can take your time to complete it. You don't need actually to scan perfectly everything. The most important part is scan the reference point that the software will match. And as a result, as you can see here, with or without the color, the result of our scan is to have this. So in this case, we have a full lower jaw and the Edentulous upper jaw. And this vertical position that you can export and the lab can import in the CAD software, this vertical position is the bite position of the patient. So the lab doesn't need to import an Edentulous scan that come from a normal scan, let's say, and guess the position. Same as you could already, you can do the same with a normal scan. So let me import this scan. Same as before, this is the same lower jaw and upper jaw model, Edentulous, but instead of the occlusal rim, I have an actual denture. So I have the upper lower jaw bite. So I took the bite in the 4 position. Only the upper jaw for the Edentulous, and then complete the rebasement, reline of my denture. And as a result, as before, we have a lower jaw aligned with the same vertical dimension, vertical position of the bite registration of the patient. If we add a denture, you can see that it's perfectly aligned. We can also see with the cross section, and is actually perfectly aligned. Common scan, Edentulous scan, and denture scan. And this matching is automatically done by the software. Let's take a few seconds more. And let's import a raw data. So that will take a few seconds. So if you have any question in the meantime, you can type it and we can answer during the little bit longer phase of the importing of the existing raw data. Okay, it's taking a few seconds to load again. So let's see if we can ask some question. Let's see. Okay, there is a question. So if I have some implants where I scan the scan body, I will answer this question at the end. There is a, let's say, an unofficial way and an official way. The denture scanning module, yes, is a premium function. But for Europe, if I'm not mistaken, the premium function has been unlocked for any scanner if they install and update the ScanFlow 109. But yes, it's a premium function. Okay. This scan was taken with a different scanner than mine. But yeah, so this is the scan. And what I was saying before, I can show you. Let me see if I can remove the scan. Let's see. So if I am the common scan and I move on the denture scan, the software is asking me, do you want to copy the data from the common scan or start a new scan? Your choice, depending of how much data you scan on the common scan. If you don't want to rescan completely the denture, you can copy the common scan. And it's not showing the tip for the scanning. Probably because I disable it. Yeah. Pardon for that. Let me try again. Here. So here are the tips for the denture protocol, basically. So you start from the occlusal, then, oh, it went away. Where it is? Okay. You start from the occlusal if you have to scan from the beginning. If you already have the common scan, you just start from the point 2. Why it's going away? Let me phrase it. You start from the back, let's say, of your denture, and then you go on top with your tip, and you scan from the side. I don't know if you can see me on the inside. The same for all the border of your denture. Finish that. You then scan the inside. But you start connecting, let's say, the outside with the inside. Okay, we have a question. So if you can, yeah, it's. I agree with you. I don't understand why it's going away. It should stay on screen. Something for reporting to our R&D. Maybe for the next version, it will stay on screen. So as I said before, when you are here, you copy your data, and then you complete your denture. And after that, so let me. Don't save the data and import the file. Okay, in the meantime, every time, in the meantime, this is loading again. Let's do a little poll. Okay, so if you should see a pop-up screen with a couple of questions. Happy to see your answer here. Okay, we are answer coming. It's we have more or less a tie on the first question. Yes and yes, but in training, and no is really only 25% say no. So yeah, denture scan is actually something was one of, let's say, the last stone of the intraoral scanner. With this workflow, I hope we create something useful for, let's say, use the intraoral scanner also for denture workflow or for Edentulous scan and for what is actually real something that will grow in the future. So prostheses on implants, etc., etc. So let's go back on the scan. So we have this scan, and then if I go to the enter matching, the software is actually doing a matching, as I said before. So when you scan on the last scan the full denture, starting from that scan, the inside of the denture with the Edentulous part, and the outside of the denture with the bite position. The alignment is automatic. If you scan enough reference point, you can always do a manual alignment. Like this is, for example, the common scan with the denture. So you select the reference point and do the matching, or switch to the Edentulous scan. So you rotate this and you do the reference for the as like the implant workflow, these 3 points doesn't need to be completely perfect, can be also a little bit off. The important part of this manual alignment is to give the software a starting point, where then the let's say the algorithm kick in and do the final matching. Once you're fine with your alignment, then you go to check high resolution. In this version of the software, actually for appliance, the software suggests the standard resolution, but it's better to use the high resolution. In the next version, the high resolution will have more advice on which flow, which kind of scan refine in high resolution. So going back to the poll, so we have few questions. Most of you are using so done a denture scan, but actually need training. And I hope this webinar is actually helping you to understanding the flow. The real scan is actually need practice, simply practice. If you have the option to try with a denture without the patient, just try to scan, just try to follow the protocol and try to scan to have more more practical, basically, with a denture scan. And for the denture scan, you need to rely on your patients. The second question is, have you had a moment when you wanted to do the denture scan but weren't comfortable enough with the workflow? Most of you say yes, and as I said before, I hope this webinar will make you more comfortable with the result. Okay. Sorry, I'm not know what's happening. It's always like this. This is the last webinar of the 3 months, and we have no issue. all the webinars. The last one is the one that need to have technical issues. So give me just a second. It's not the software, it's my PC. Too much workload. So regarding the question about if I have implants where I scan the scan body, let me explain. So you have in the presentation, so in the denture workflow, if I go back on here, okay, you will see that this explanation, it say that you can scan the full denture, also the inside, in the common scan. This is actually working with the matching. So you can match a Edentulous scan with the denture in the common scan. This kind of workflow works also if you use an implant workflow. So as a temporary workaround, you can actually do something like this. You can use the implant workflow, scan in the common scan the full denture, in the emerge profile, the Edentulous scan without the scan body, and then the scan body. And when you go to the matching, stage, the software will align the Edentulous scan with inside of the common scan. But this doesn't work all the time. And do this matching sometimes is tricky, you need to do manually. So this is a kind of workaround. So it's not an official workflow. What is official, not yet, but it will be, is this. So let me show this scan. This is a real scan, real patient. Finally, I can show you a real scan, not only models. So we have a question in the meantime. I don't understand why you would want to scan the Edentulous ridge if you have scanned the line denture. Okay, so let me explain here. So this is the denture, okay. This is the Edentulous scan. This is a real scan. And this is the actual denture, okay. So you need to scan the Edentulous ridge, okay, and the denture to have a matching. So this, to be able to have this scan in the right position, you need to scan both the inside of your denture, Reline or the normal denture, if it's fitting properly, and the Edentulous scan. Because when you do the matching, the software will align this scan with this part. And then it will align the outside of the scan with this scan, because here you capture the bite. I hope this makes sense. So going back to the where to scan the scan body. What you can see in this file, in this demo, I have the denture scan and the scan body scan. So here I have this, and here I have the scan body. It's not possible now, but it will be soon with the next version. Let's say, little spoiler. The release of the next version, as far I remember, it's planned for the Q1 next year, early Q1. So I don't know the date precisely, but I need to double check with the product management. But it's actually planned for, let's say, beginning of next year. Another question, but if you have a decent reline impression, why do you need the Edentulous scan? So I understand your question. It's true. So if you have a nice reline denture, you can do the matching, or you can do the design without the Edentulous scan. So the actual workflow is to send to the lab not the denture, but the Edentulous scan in the bite position. So the scan of the denture, of the aligned denture, it's part of the process to have the as an outcome the Edentulous scan in the bite position. It's not necessary to the lab. It's to have the information to design a new denture, or in case of Volume 4, a prosthesis that will go on implants. Okay. See if we have other question. Okay, we are ahead of time today. Okay. Let me see this last file. This is actually another example with a real denture, but with a model as a Edentulous scan, as a Edentulous jaws, with both upper and lower. So here we have, this is a denture scan, okay, with this bite. Then we have the upper and the lower jaw. and then also the denture upper and lower. So you can scan, you can do the same workflow with both jaws. When you do the superimposition, you can see that I can disable the common scan and denture scan. And as a result, I have the vertical position of the both arches. Here you can see the matching is a little bit off, but the palette is actually matching properly.
I think one point worth mentioning here at this point, and this also goes back to the previous question that we had regarding if it's technically necessary to have the Edentulous scan in itself. The reason why it is so important to actually have that data, and as you mentioned, Maurizio, that's the data that generally the lab will be using to make the actual work later on. If you're scanning like impression material, you know, that of an impression that you took, it's just one extra step where you could have like more inaccuracies. Whereas if you're actually scanning the soft tissue, that's the most direct way of doing it. Also, which is in line with the precision that you actually have with such an iOS scanner, right? Impression material is sensitive to human error, and that's less the case with the scanner, I would say.
Okay. Let's see if there is other question. I think we overestimate the time. This workflow maybe it was needed less than 1 hour, but I want to keep it separate by any other workflow and explain it properly, because this is something actually new and something almost unique for our software. Because you can always do normal scan, so you can also do separate scan and do the matching with the CAD. But in this way, you will provide to the lab a real information and correct information, and you can check yourself before sending to the lab. There are a couple of questions that maybe, Sasha, you are more knowledgeable on this.
Yes. When I was just speaking, was I just mute or not?
No. You are speaking. You're not in mute now.
No, not now, but like 3 or 4 minutes ago.
Yeah. No, you.
Okay, I was a
I
bit
hear
unsure because I saw that I was muted again.
No worries.
So she's asking, or he, but how do you record the full depth of Soku, especially as it's movable on scan? Well, technically the depth is limited regardless, right? Just in terms of the scanning technology. An impression would have more dynamic extension. And in that sense, you're correct. At the end of the day, it's the lab that's actually deciding what they're going to be doing, right? We're just there to give them all the information so that they can make their best educated guess. And not including a scan, because technically it might not be necessary, isn't really the way to go about it. Generally, we're taking impressions, and depending on the country that you're in, there's also requirements in terms of how long and what types of impressions you need to kind of store over a long period of time, especially also the having it all types. of impressions. Having as much data as is most helpful here. There's a couple of other questions that came in. Quality mesh between IS 3600, 3800, Maurizio?
This is for me. So technically, no. So the accuracy of 3600, 3800 are comparable, but because the 3800 has a bigger and deeper field of scan, let's say the cube of that the scanner can scan, you can scan the same patient with less data, and that means that it's less data to calculate. So technically, yes, there is no difference between the 36 and 38. In real cases, we did some tests internally, and there was an average calculation on the microns, on the calculation on the scan. There was a slight better accuracy, let's say, in the 3800, but was, if I remember well, was 20 microns the 3800 and 25 microns on the 3600. So it's depend a lot also on the usage. So this type of product is a product that has a lot of human interaction. So a bad used 3800 can give a worse result than a well used 3600, let's say. But technically speaking, they have the same accuracy.
For the last question, I can't speak of any clinical personal experience that I've had with that, but I have heard from users using like little, I think, balls of composite to add some reference points. Probably very similar to what you mentioned with Floor.
Okay. Lot of questions tonight. Okay, we are on the thanks, probably. Let's wait 1 minute if there is any other question. If not, I think we can close the session here. In the meantime, so if there is no other question, I want to thank you everyone to attend this webinar and the full 20 months webinar. Just for your information, we recorded all the webinars, and after this, it will be created. There will be a kind of collection of recording available for review anytime. So it will be one link shared with all the webinars in one.
One more thing, actually, for those that are still there, there's a function where you can raise your hand. If there's anybody that's been with us for all 4 webinars, feel free to use the raise your hand function so we can just get an idea of who actually stuck with us for all 4 sessions.
Okay, we have 2.
So we had some variability, I think, from like 15 to 25 in total.
Yeah.
And today's Halloween, so I'm sure a lot of you guys
it's
your kids.
Yesterday was bank holiday in UK. Today is Halloween. Tomorrow is bank holiday in a few other countries. So it's to be in theme is it's a tricky date.
All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Okay.
See you next time then.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you everyone. Bye. Have a nice evening.